I turned into my driveway expecting silence and instead found three men with a crowbar trying to break into my garage. Helmet guy, tall, shiny, hard hat, that screamed, "Never done real work," prying at my door like he was opening a can of tuna. Clipboard vest, neon yellow, price tag still flapping in the breeze like a surrender flag he didn't know he was waving. Phone guy, thin as a fence post, recording the whole damn operation like this was a legitimate safety inspection. They froze when they saw me pull up. For about 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then helmet guy, the one with the crowbar wedged under my garage door, made a decision that would ruin the rest of his year. He raised it. Not to drop it, not to hand it over. He raised it like a weapon. I'm Isaiah Vaughn, former federal cyber specialist with 10 years in rapid deployment operations, the kind of work that doesn't make the news because when we do our job right, nobody knows there was ever a problem. I've secured data centers under active intrusion, traced ransomware operators across 3 continents, built network fortresses that made professional hackers give up and go home. I earned this 10-acre property in the Colorado Pines with discipline, sweat, and a federal pension most people retire on at 55. I left at 38 because I was done fixing other people's security disasters. I wanted to build something clean, something mine, something that didn't depend on bureaucracy or compromise. This off-grid garage workshop runs on solar arrays, lithium battery banks, server racks, fire suppression systems more advanced than half the tech companies in Denver. Every camera angle's just right, every sensor calibrated, every failsafe installed by someone who spent a decade teaching federal agents how to defend critical infrastructure. But the beautiful HOA president in the crimson red blazer who sent these 3 stooges to break into my property? She told the entire neighborhood I was running a meth lab. Because apparently, a black man with high-end equipment and late-night work sessions can't just be a successful consultant. He must be a criminal. She wanted my land. She spread the rumors for months, whisper campaigns, anonymous letters, safety alerts. She engineered the fear, manufactured the crisis, and sent her amateur crew to inspect evidence she could use to steal my property through zoning manipulation. And when I zip-tied all 3 of them on my gravel driveway and called the sheriff with documented video proof of attempted forced entry and assault with a deadly weapon, Karen Litton learned something she should have Googled before she started this war. You don't fuck with someone who spent a decade winning digital battles for the federal government. 30 minutes. That's all I was gone. Compression fitting. Roll of fiber conduit. 1 halfway decent espresso from the only cafe in town that doesn't taste like burnt socks. Just a quiet Saturday errand. And in those 30 minutes, Karen Litton made the worst tactical error of her life. This is the story of how an HOA president tried to destroy me with racism, rumor, and a crowbar, and how she ended up in federal court with her own son testifying against her. Let me tell you exactly how it happened. I wasn't gone more than 30, maybe 35 minutes at most. The morning had started quiet, the kind of Colorado silence that settles between 10 acres of pine trees like a clean blanket. I'm a black man who built his career in federal cybersecurity operations most civilians don't even know exist, rapid deployment, high-risk networks. The kind of work where one mistake costs lives or economies. I retired young because I was good at it. Consulting pays better than government work, and after a decade of 80-hour weeks under fluorescent lights, I wanted land, space, silence. So I bought this property, 10 acres on the edge of Pine Shadows Village, just far enough outside HOA jurisdiction that I didn't need anyone's permission to build the workshop I'd been planning for years. Off-grid, solar-powered, secure as a vault. I designed it myself. Lithium battery banks for storage, redundant power systems, server racks running diagnostics and monitoring tools I still consult with remotely, fire suppression equipment that could handle anything short of a rocket strike, nothing illegal, nothing dangerous, just the quiet satisfaction of building something right. But Karen Litton, HOA president of Pine Shadows, saw a black man with expensive equipment, working late hours, and her brain couldn't process successful tech consultant. It went straight to drug dealer. That Saturday morning, I needed 3 things from town: a compression fitting for the new conduit run, a roll of fiber optic cabling, and coffee that didn't taste like industrial runoff. I locked the workshop, armed the perimeter sensors, set the drones on automatic patrol. Standard protocol, nothing paranoid, just habits you don't break when you've spent 10 years protecting networks that run nations. I figured I'd be back in 30 minutes, 35 tops. As I drove into town, I remember thinking, it's going to be a quiet afternoon. The kind of peace that comes from owning land nobody can touch, doing work you're proud of, and not answering to anyone's bullshit HOA aesthetics committee. I was wrong. Life doesn't always hand you peace. Sometimes it hands you 3 idiots in fluorescent vests trying to pry open your garage with a crowbar. The sound hit me first before I even saw them. A metallic clank, clank, clank carrying on the wind as my truck tires crunched over gravel. Irregular. Sloppy. The sound of someone prying at something they had no business touching. Then I saw them. 3 men clustered around my garage door like they were trying to break into a vending machine. One tall guy helmet, too shiny, boots too clean, had a crowbar wedged under the garage door frame and was prying with all his weight. Another wore a neon yellow safety vest, so knew the price tag was still attached, flapping in the breeze like a flag of incompetence. He held a clipboard, but clearly had no idea what to do with it. He kept looking at it, then at the garage, then back at the clipboard, like the answer might appear. The third was thin, nervous, holding up a phone and recording everything with shaking hands. They didn't notice me at first, too busy arguing in loud whispers. Just pry harder, Karen said the lock would be easy. Are you sure this is legal? I pulled my truck to a stop about 20 yards away. Engine idling. Watching. Still no reaction. I put it in park. Nothing. That's when I started laughing. Not loud, just one of those involuntary exhales when reality surprises you in the dumbest way possible. I opened the door and stepped out, boots hitting gravel with a crunch loud enough to break their concentration. "Hey!" I called out, voice calm and clear. "You boys the morning shift or the matinee?" All 3 froze like someone had hit pause on a video. Helmet guy nearly dropped the crowbar. Clipboard vest straightened up so fast he nearly gave himself whiplash. Phone guy turned slowly, painfully slowly, like he was hoping I was a hallucination. For a moment, we just stood there, staring at each other across 20 yards of my driveway. The property owner, federal cyber specialist, the guy who paid for every inch of this land. Them. 3 amateurs caught mid-felony. That's when my security drone hummed into view above them, triggered automatically by motion near the perimeter. They didn't see it, but I did. Silent, hovering, recording everything in 4K resolution with crystal clear audio, and I realized something important. These weren't random trespassers. They were HOA trespassers, which meant this wasn't just stupidity. This was organized stupidity, which meant Karen Litton's fingerprints were all over this disaster. The 3 of them stood frozen in my driveway like they just realized the universe had made a catastrophic scheduling error. Clipboard vest recovered first cleared his throat like he'd rehearsed this speech in front of a bathroom mirror. "Sir, this is a routine HOA safety inspection. You weren't present to grant access, so under extended jurisdictional authority I raised one hand. Slow. Steady. Stop talking before you injure yourself with that sentence." His mouth snapped shut. Phone guy's hand trembled. The camera wobbled. But he kept recording, probably thinking it would protect him somehow. Helmet guy, he didn't tremble. He didn't back down. No, he doubled down. The kind of man who gets more confident, the more wrong he is. I've seen the type 1,000 times in briefings, in interrogation rooms, in courtrooms. The ones who think volume and posture can substitute for being right. So, I laid out the rules. "You have 15 seconds, I said, voice calm as falling snow, to explain why you're forcing entry into my garage, on my land, without cause, without paperwork, without any legal authority whatsoever before this stops being a polite conversation and becomes a criminal matter." I checked my watch. 14 seconds. Clipboard vest stammered. We were told there were safety concerns. 11 seconds. Hazardous materials. Chemicals. 8 seconds. Phone guy whispered. Karen said, 5 seconds. And that's when helmet guy made his fatal mistake. He shifted his weight, tightened his grip on the crowbar, and raised it. Not high, just enough to be visible. Just enough to cross the line from holding a tool to threatening with a weapon. His jaw set, his shoulders squared. That wasn't confusion, that wasn't panic, that was intent. I exhaled once, slow, measured, and then I moved. 10 years of federal operations taught me something important. Hesitation gets you killed. When someone raises a weapon, you don't negotiate. You end the threat. I closed the distance in 3 steps, fast, controlled, silent. Hooked his wrist with my left hand, twisted hard and sharp, and drove him face first into the gravel with enough force to knock the wind out of his lungs. The crowbar clattered away, bouncing once before settling near my front tire. Helmet guy hit the ground with a wet thud and a wheeze that sounded like a tire deflating. Clipboard vest panicked, tried to lunge at me, arms flailing. Zero technique, all adrenaline. He tripped over his own boots, hit the dirt with a dull whump, and stayed there gasping like a broken accordion. Phone guy spun on his heel and ran. Got 2 steps, maybe 3. Then he forgot about the shovel leaning against my woodshed. His shin found it first hard. Gravity handled the rest. He went down in a sprawl of limbs and dust, phone skittering across the gravel. In under 60 seconds, the entire safety inspection team was neutralized. I stepped back, checked hands and pockets, old habits from federal fieldwork, and confirmed none of them had knives, tools, or anything else dangerous within reach. Then, I walked calmly to the back of my truck, opened the side compartment, and pulled out my emergency kit. Heavy-duty zip ties, contractor grade, the kind that don't break unless you want them to. I zip-tied their wrists, one by one, not tight enough to injure, just tight enough to keep them from doing anything stupid. Helmet guy groaned as I rolled him onto his side. "You're fine," I said. "Gravel's soft. You'll have a bruise. Not a hospital bill." Clipboard vest muttered something about miscommunication and misunderstanding. I ignored him. Phone guy, the thin one who'd been recording everything, whimpered as I secured his wrists. "Karen said this was authorized," he whispered, voice shaking. She said you were keeping dangerous stuff out here. She said the whole neighborhood could be at risk. She said you were cooking something." I stopped, looked at him. "Cooking something," I repeated flatly. He nodded, eyes wide, terrified. "Like what, exactly?" He swallowed hard. She said, maybe a meth lab? And there it was, the missing piece, the reason this whole disaster made sense. Karen Litton didn't just send 3 amateurs to break into my garage because she was bored. She sent them because she'd spent months convincing Pine Shadows that a black man with high-end equipment must be a criminal. I pulled out my phone and dialed Sheriff Bell. "Sheriff, it's Isaiah Vaughn. I've got 3 individuals on my property who just attempted forced entry into my garage." A pause on the line. "Negative on me drawing any weapon, but I do have assault with a deadly weapon on camera." Crowbar raised and ready. Another pause. "Yeah, they're zip-tied. They're breathing." "And no, Sheriff, they're not going anywhere." I hung up and walked over to my porch, sat down on the cooler, and let out a long, slow breath. Helmet guy groaned in the gravel. Clipboard vest wheezed. Phone guy stared up at my security drone, still hovering overhead like a patient, mechanical judge, and I thought to myself, if this is Karen's opening move, the war she just started is going to be one hell of a story. Sheriff Bell's cruiser rolled up my driveway 8 minutes later. No sirens, just light, slow, steady circles painting the pines red and blue. Bell stepped out with the kind of calm you only develop after 30 years in law enforcement. He's seen everything twice. Nothing surprises him anymore. He took one long look at the 3 men zip-tied on my gravel, the crowbar lying near my tire, and the neon vest with its price tag still flapping in the wind. Then he sighed the kind of sigh that says, "I'm too old for this shit," without words. "Well," he said, nudging the crowbar with his boot, "looks like your Saturday went sideways." I shrugged. It had potential. They ruined it. Bell walked a slow circle around the three men, hands on his belt, expression neutral, professional, detached. Already mentally drafting the incident report, he knelt beside Helmet Guy. "You injured?" Helmet Guy wheezed. "Just wind knocked out." "Good. Means you can talk." Bell stood and turned to me, eyes sharp beneath the brim of his hat. "Isaiah," he said quietly, "if this man hadn't raised that crowbar the way he did, I'd be having a very different conversation with you about the zip ties. You know that, right?" I nodded. "I know, Sheriff. I don't enjoy wrestling grown men on my driveway." "But he raised a weapon," I responded. Bell grunted. "Noted." Then Clipboard Vest tried to sit up straighter, like he could salvage this disaster with the right explanation. "Sheriff, sir, this was an authorized HOA safety inspection. We had multiple reports of hazardous materials in that garage, chemicals, lithium batteries, electrical surges, possibly even explosive." Bell blinked once, slowly. "Explosive devices," he repeated, voice flat as concrete. Clipboard Vest swallowed. "Well, that's what she told us." "She?" Bell asked. Phone guy chimed in, voice cracking with desperation. "Karen Litton, sir. She's the HOA president. She said if we didn't finish the inspection before he got back, the whole community could be in danger. She said he was cooking something out here." Bell exhaled. Long, deep. The kind of breath that carries the weight of 1,000 stupid decisions made by people who should have known better. "Let me guess," he said. "Karen Litton sent you." All three nodded so hard I thought the gravel might file their chins smooth. Bell rubbed his temples. "Well," he muttered, "that explains the IQ level of today's field trip." He turned to me. "You said you've got footage." I held up my phone. Drone caught everything. Doorframe camera too. Time-stamped, synced, archived. They didn't even notice the blinking red light. Bell watched 30 seconds of the footage, saw Helmet Guy pry at the door, heard their argument about leverage, watched the crowbar raise, and handed the phone back with a wince. "All right," he said. "Trespass. Attempted forced entry. Assault with a deadly weapon." He lowered his voice. "And whatever else we dig up once I get formal statements. Then, because fate has impeccable comedic timing, the next act arrived. The sound came first, sharp, angry. The staccato clatter of high heels marching over gravel, each step landing like a gavel strike. Then she appeared through the trees, Karen Litton, and for the first time, I saw her in full. She didn't walk. She descended like royalty, inspecting a peasant rebellion she intended to crush. She wore a crimson-red blazer, tailored so sharply it could cut glass, fitted perfectly to her frame, draped open just enough to show confidence without compromise. Beneath it, a black silk blouse with a neckline that plunged in a deep V, the kind of cut that draws attention whether you want it to or not. Her pencil skirt matched the blazer, crimson, sleek, with a subtle slit that suggested power and control. Glossy red heels clicked against the gravel with sharp, deliberate rhythm, the sound of someone who believed every step she took was justified. Her hair, a rich, polished burgundy, fell in soft waves to her shoulders, catching the afternoon light like mahogany. And her lips, painted in the same bold, glossy red as her heels, were pressed into a thin, furious line. She looked stunning, polished, untouchable, like a woman who had dressed for battle and fully expected to win. Oversized sunglasses perched on her nose, a thick folder clutched in one manicured hand, expression sharpened to a killing edge. "Sheriff Bell," she shouted before she was even within conversational distance. "You need to stop this arrest immediately." Bell didn't turn, just muttered under his breath. "Here we go." Karen stormed up, heels punching into the gravel, her crimson blazer flaring slightly with each aggressive step. These men were authorized personnel acting under HOA directive. "You are interfering with lawful community governance." Bell raised one calm hand. "Ma'am, these men were caught breaking into a private structure, And Pine Shadows HOA has zero jurisdiction on this parcel. Karen's jaw tightened beneath that glossy red lipstick. That is incorrect, she snapped, whipping open her folder. Inside, a freshly printed map ink, probably still drying, covered in colored zones and boundary lines. According to zoning proposals submitted in 2019, this land was intended to be included in Pine Shadows administrative territory, which gives us standing to conduct safety compliance inspections. I stepped forward, voice steady. Karen, drawing lines on a PDF doesn't create jurisdiction. That's not zoning law. That's a fantasy with a print button. One deputy covered a laugh with a cough. Another didn't bother hiding his grin. Karen pivoted toward me, her burgundy waves swinging, her crimson blazer pulling taut across her shoulders. This garage has been repeatedly reported for suspicious activity. Chemicals, fumes, dangerous equipment operating at all hours. Residents are concerned. I raised an eyebrow. You mean my server batteries? My fire suppression system? The drill press I use for woodworking? From the ground? Phone guy whispered, voice barely audible. She told us it might be a meth lab. The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Karen's face drained of color beneath her carefully applied makeup. She hissed through clenched teeth, her glossy red lips barely moving. That was internal speculation regarding community safety protocols. It was not intended for public dissemination. Bell stepped between us, patience clearly wearing thin. All right, enough. Ma'am, you are on private property without cause, and you orchestrated an unlawful entry. You take one more step toward that garage, and your name goes on the arrest report with theirs. Silence, the kind that stings. I leaned against my truck, folded my arms, and said calmly, "Save your breath, Karen. You're gonna need it for the deposition." Her jaw locked, her burgundy hair trembled slightly in the breeze. Her crimson blazer, so sharp and commanding when she arrived, now looked like armor that didn't quite fit. Bell signaled his deputies. And just like that, the first real line of this war had been drawn. After the deputies loaded Karen's inspection team into the cruiser, the driveway finally fell quiet. Karen stood there, arms rigid at her sides, jaw set, folder trembling just slightly in her grip, and beneath all that rage, I caught something else. Fear. Not fear of me, fear of losing control. Some people volunteer for an HOA because they want to help their neighborhood. Karen Litton volunteered because she wanted a kingdom. And the truth behind that break-in didn't start today. It started months earlier. I'd begun renovating my off-grid garage in the spring new conduit. Better insulation, upgraded server racks, a commercial-grade fire suppression system, basic infrastructure for someone in my line of work. Nothing sneaky, nothing illegal, just the quiet, methodical satisfaction of building something right. But in a community like Pine Shadows, curiosity spreads faster than common sense. Neighbors ask simple questions. What are you working on out there, Isaiah? Some kind of tech setup? You building a generator farm? I answered honestly. Told them I was a retired federal cyber specialist who did remote consulting and needed reliable infrastructure. Most nodded politely and went on with their lives. Karen didn't ask me anything. She asked everyone else. And every answer she gathered came back twisted. A lithium battery bank became volatile chemical storage. A fire suppression tank became pressurized hazardous materials. A server rack running diagnostics became military-grade communications. Equipment. Late-night work sessions became suspicious mechanical noises at odd hours. Karen didn't spread rumors. She engineered them. She let a few carefully chosen words drip into social gatherings. She expressed concerns at HOA meetings, always vague, always ominous. She forwarded secondhand comments to the board with phrases like, "Resident anxiety is increasing," "Potential risk to community safety," unverified reports of chemical fumes or environmental runoff. Soon enough, people started whispering behind my back. "Something's going on in that garage. He's got equipment running all night. You know he used to work for the government. Maybe he's hiding something." I heard he's storing hazardous chemicals. I heard worse. And by midsummer, the phrase meth lab started appearing, always quietly, always behind closed doors, but always conveniently near Karen. One older neighbor, a retired teacher named Mr. Paulson, pulled me aside at the gas station one afternoon. "Isaiah," he whispered, glancing around like we were being watched, "I don't believe what they're saying. But you should know, Karen told the board your garage might explode." I laughed at first, thought it was typical HOA melodrama, but then the tone shifted. Parents hurried their kids past my driveway. Folks who used to wave now avoided eye contact. One family that let their kids ride bikes near my property suddenly started walking them the long way around, heads down, no acknowledgement. And then Pine Shadows HOA sent out a community-wide safety memo urging residents to report unusual smells near boundary properties, electrical surges or grid fluctuations, odd lighting patterns after dark, suspicious equipment, noises from adjacent lots, boundary properties, adjacent lots. They didn't name me. They didn't have to. Karen had already painted the picture. By late summer, she had convinced herself and a good chunk of Pine Shadows that my garage wasn't a workshop. It was a threat. But here's the question that should have tipped me off earlier. If Karen truly believed I was dangerous running a meth lab storing explosives, why didn't she call the county fire marshal? Or the DEA? Or anyone with real jurisdiction? Why send 3 HOA volunteers with a crowbar and a clipboard? The answer finally clicked into place when I saw that map she waved at Sheriff Bell, the freshly printed one with the dotted lines. I'd seen earlier drafts months ago slipped into HOA newsletters as conceptual expansion studies. Every version had one thing in common: a boundary line that crept a little farther each time, until it swallowed a strip of my 10 acres. The county had rejected Pine Shadows' expansion proposal 3 times. But if Karen could manufacture a public safety emergency on my property, if she could stage an inspection that discovered violations, if she could show the HOA was forced to intervene, then maybe, just maybe, she could convince the county to fold my land into Pine Shadows for safety oversight. She didn't break into my garage because she hated me. She broke in because she needed evidence, real or fabricated, to justify a land grab. Everything she'd done, the whispers, the safety memos, the late-night surveillance drone, she didn't think I'd notice was leading to this moment. Karen didn't want to protect Pine Shadows. Karen wanted to expand it. And my land, my garage, my peace, my fortress stood directly in her way. So she did what people like her always do when they can't buy what they want. She tried to steal it. And she dressed it up as community safety. I've never liked courtrooms. Too many fluorescent lights pretending to be sunlight. Too many polished benches pretending to be comfortable. But on the morning of my civil hearing against Pine Shadows HOA, I walked in with one singular goal. Not just to win, but to make the judge enjoy ruling in my favor. The courtroom was packed. Neighbors, HOA board members, the concerned citizen types who live for other people's conflict. You could feel the gossip vibrating in the air like static electricity. I took my seat next to my attorney, Melinda Crowley, a woman carved entirely out of titanium and case law. She slid a thick stack of files across the table, color-coded tabs, indexed references, chronological documentation. "You ready?" I asked. She didn't look up from her notes. I was ready before they filed. That's why I hired her. A few minutes later, Karen Litton entered, not walking, marching, head high, spine rigid, shoulders back. She wore the same crimson-red blazer from the arrest scene, tailored like a second skin, sharp enough to cut through steel, draped open to reveal that black silk blouse with its plunging V-neck. Her crimson pencil skirt moved with her stride, the subtle slit catching light with every deliberate step. Red heels clicked against the tile floor like a drumbeat announcing royalty. Her burgundy waves were styled to perfection, framing her face with the kind of precision that takes time and money, and her lips, painted in that same bold, glossy red, were pressed into a thin, determined line. She looked like someone who had never lost an argument because she simply rewrote history until she won. Beside her walked the HOA attorney, clean-shaven, pressed suit, perfect hair, the look of a man who prepares meticulously, but clearly had not prepared for Karen. He whispered something. She nodded like a queen approving a battle strategy. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Judge Margaret Langford entered sharp eyes, sharper mind, the kind of judge who could smell bullshit from the parking lot. She surveyed the packed room with the expression of someone deeply unimpressed. "Let's remember," she said, voice carrying effortlessly. "This is a civil hearing, not a community theater production. I expect order." I swear she looked directly at Karen when she said production. The HOA attorney stood. "Your Honor, my clients acted out of reasonable concern for public safety. They received multiple credible reports alleging hazardous materials in Mr. Vaughn's garage, flammables, industrial chemicals, potential explosive devices. They proceeded with an inspection in good faith under HOA safety protocols." Karen nodded so aggressively I thought her neck might snap. Then came Melinda's turn. She rose slowly, calmly, as if gravity itself deferred to her. "Your Honor, before we address the alleged concerns, we need to establish one foundational fact: jurisdiction." She handed a bound document set to the clerk. "This parcel is not, has never been, and was never approved to become part of Pine Shadow's HOA. The HOA had zero legal authority to inspect, enter, or even approach Mr. Blais, Vaughn's property, without his explicit consent." Judge Langford read the first page, nodded once. "Proceed." Melinda plugged in a thumb drive. "This, Your Honor, is unedited drone footage from the date in question." The lights dimmed, the screen flickered to life, and there they were, Karen's three stooges in glorious high-definition helmet guy, prying at the garage door like he was cracking a safe. Clipboard vest, pacing nervously, price tag flapping in the wind like a white flag, phone guy recording with shaking hands. Then the audio kicked in. "Just pry harder," she said. "It'd be easy. Are you sure this is legal? If we don't finish before he gets back, Karen said she'll have our asses." A collective gasp rippled through the gallery. The HOA attorney froze. His shoulders sagged. His head dropped slightly. And then, subtle but unmistakable, he pinched the bridge of his nose and exhaled the longest, saddest breath I've ever heard from a lawyer. You could practically hear his internal monologue. "Why do I keep taking HOA cases?" Karen, meanwhile, sat perfectly still in her crimson blazer. Jaw clenched so hard I thought her teeth might crack. Her glossy red lips pressed into a bloodless line. Melinda continued gently, almost kindly. "This wasn't an inspection, Your Honor. It was a break-in, orchestrated explicitly by Mrs. Litton." The HOA attorney attempted a desperate pivot. "Your Honor, the intent behind Pine Shadow's 2019 zoning proposal clearly indicates." Judge Langford cut him off mid-sentence. "Counselor, intent is irrelevant. Intent does not create jurisdiction. Intent does not authorize trespassing. And intent certainly does not excuse breaking into someone's garage with a crowbar." She turned her laser focus to Karen. "Mrs. Litton, did you authorize these individuals to enter Mr. Vaughn's property?" Karen swallowed. Her burgundy waves shifted slightly. "I relayed resident concerns to the inspection team. They acted based on community necessity." The judge leaned forward. "That's not an answer. I'll ask again. Did you authorize them to enter?" Karen's crimson blazer seemed to tighten across her shoulders. "I informed them that the HOA expected decisive action to address safety risks." Beside me, Melinda whispered, "That's it. She just convicted herself." Judge Langford set her pen down with a soft, final click. "I find Pine Shadow's HOA and Mrs. Karen Litton jointly liable for trespass, unauthorized intrusion, and willful abuse of positional authority." The HOA attorney closed his eyes like a man accepting his fate. The judge continued, "Actual damages are minimal. However, punitive damages for this willful abuse of power and blatant disregard for property rights will be substantial." She paused, letting the weight settle. "The HOA is ordered to pay Mr. Vaughn $85,000 in punitive damages." Murmurs swept the room like wildfire. "And Mrs. Litton," the judge added, turning her gaze like a sniper's scope, "is required to issue a formal public apology, unedited, and court-approved to be posted on all HOA communication platforms for no fewer than 60 consecutive days. You could almost see Karen's dignity evaporate in real time. Her crimson blazer, so commanding when she entered, now looked too tight, too bright, like armor that no longer fit. She didn't look furious. She looked exposed. And people like Karen never forget that feeling. They feed on it, nurture it, and then they return it. You'd think winning $85,000 in punitive damages would feel like victory, and for about 48 hours, it did. But peace on my land has a sound, a rhythm, a certain clean quiet that settles between the pines like fresh snow. And the week after the civil hearing did not sound like peace. It sounded like a pause, a held breath, the dangerous kind of silence that comes before a storm breaks loose. Karen vanished from public view. Not physically, her silver Lexus still came and went from her Pine Shadows driveway, but she disappeared from community life entirely. No HOA newsletters, no mass emails, no rants on the neighborhood Facebook group. Not even her signature concerned citizen alerts about trash cans left out 20 minutes past collection time. Nothing, like she'd been erased. And that was the first red flag. People like Karen don't retreat quietly, they reload. The second red flag came 2 days later. I was on my porch reviewing server logs when I spotted a white SUV parked just outside my southern fence line. No markings, tinted windows, Colorado plates. It sat there for maybe 10, 12 minutes. 2 people stepped out, not neighbors, not anyone I recognized, and started pointing cameras at my solar array. Telephoto lenses, notebooks, professional grade equipment. They didn't approach the fence, didn't wave, didn't introduce themselves, just took pictures, made notes, and drove off without a word. I watched them leave with a feeling I hadn't felt in years, the low, cold tickle of someone probing for weakness. On day 4, a letter arrived, official-looking envelope, heavy paper, government seal, Colorado Department of Environmental Health. Inside, a formal complaint alleging non-compliant emissions, possible chemical runoff, and solar energy feedback irregularities. Every accusation was nonsense, but it was nonsense written in intimidating bureaucratic language designed to scare homeowners who don't know better. I exhaled slowly. There it is, Karen's next move. She'd realized she couldn't beat me on property law, so now she was launching regulatory warfare. Attack the man through paperwork, through agencies, through government channels that don't know they're being weaponized. Classic HOA guerrilla tactics. The inspector who eventually showed up, a polite woman in her 50s named Dr. Chen, looked almost embarrassed to be there. She toured my property for 30 minutes, checked every battery, sensor, pipe, and runoff system, took notes, ran tests, asked technical questions I answered with precision. When she finished, she sighed. Mr. Vaughn, I have no idea why this complaint was filed. Everything here is immaculate. Your setup exceeds state standards by a significant margin. I nodded. I know why it was filed. She didn't ask for details. Smart woman. But as she walked back to her car, she gave me a look I recognized from my federal days. You're not being inspected, you're being targeted. By day 5, I knew the truth. Karen wasn't licking her wounds. She was regrouping. She'd tried the legal route, failed. She'd tried regulatory harassment, failed. And now she was escalating into something darker. The anonymous letters started arriving the following week, not in my mailbox, but in everyone else's. Neighbors 3-4 blocks away began receiving cream-colored envelopes with no return address. Inside, grainy, zoomed-in night photos of my workshop. Blurry by design, ominous on purpose. Beneath each photo, a single typed line. Do you know what's being stored in your neighborhood? No signature, no explanation, just fear, delivered postage paid. By week's end, people were acting differently around me. More distance, faster steps, averted eyes. One family that used to let their kids ride bikes near my driveway suddenly started walking them the long way around. No wave, no acknowledgement. That's how rumor works. It doesn't need truth, just oxygen. And Karen was fanning it hard. Then came the flyers distributed directly into HOA mailboxes. Same photos, same aesthetic, but now the fear got specific. Possible unlicensed chemicals on premises, electrical anomalies near boundary zone, reports of hazardous equipment, every line crafted to sound official without being specific enough to challenge. Turn an ordinary property into a neighborhood crisis. And it was working. 3 days later, the real attack launched. An HOA Facebook group post titled, "Disturbing Confrontation Caught on Video Pine Shadows, Residents Beware." The thumbnail was me frozen mid-motion, jaw set, shoulders squared, the kind of freeze frame that makes anyone look guilty. I clicked play and immediately recognized the footage. Phone guy's video, the shaky-handed amateur from the break-in, but it had been edited, surgically, maliciously, weaponized. The first half, where they were prying open my garage with a crowbar, was gone, cut completely. Every frame showing their forced entry, their tools, their criminal intent deleted. What remained was a stitched-together clip showing me taking them down, framed like an unprovoked assault by an unhinged property owner. Worse, someone had added a voiceover. Deep, grainy, fake, synced badly with my mouth movements, but close enough to fool people who wanted to believe. "Come back here again and there will be consequences." I never said that. Not even close. But in the edited footage, it looked real enough. The comments section exploded. "He's dangerous. Why does he have all that equipment? I heard he used to work for the military. This is terrifying. Should we call the police? Could be a prepper. Or worse." I checked the metadata. The upload came from a fresh account. 0 friends, 0 prior posts, created the day before. But the proxy routing was sloppy. It bounced through a college dorm network, CSU Pueblo, Tyler Litton's school, Karen's son. She hadn't just escalated, she'd enlisted family. And then the drones arrived. Not my clean, stable surveillance drones. No, these were cheap, buzzing little quadcopters flown by someone with the skill of a drunk pigeon. They dipped low over my western fence, circled my roofline, hovered over tree cover just long enough to be noticed. Twice I launched my own drone in response. Both times, the intruder panicked and fled south like a startled rabbit. Inside, I checked my firewall logs. 5 intrusion attempts in the past 72 hours, all from unknown devices, all probing the edges of my network security. Amateur work, but persistent. Whoever was trying to break into my system wasn't just curious. They were desperate. The final escalation came on a Tuesday at 2:14 in the morning. My motion alarm beeped perimeter breach. Southwest corner. I pulled up the camera feed and saw 2 silhouettes moving through the tree line near my back fence. They carried something small and boxy, mounted it onto a tree trunk facing my workshop, stayed 5 minutes, left without a sound. By dawn, the device was gone, but the zip tie marks remained, and the footprints deep. Careless, escalating, standing there in the morning light, staring at those tracks, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Karen wasn't just angry about losing in court. She was obsessed. And she wasn't spreading rumors anymore. She was building a machine, digital, social, psychological, a coordinated campaign constructed from fear, misinformation, and weaponized gossip. She wanted a war. And she'd just fired the first real shot. The morning after I found the zip tie marks and boot prints along my back fence, I did what I've always done when someone crosses the line. I started digging. Not into dirt, into data. Most folks in Pine Shadows only knew me as that off-grid tech guy with too many batteries and not enough HOA spirit. They had no idea that before I built server farms for private clients, I spent nearly a decade in federal rapid deployment operations, securing networks under active intrusion, tracing ransomware cells across continents, dismantling criminal infrastructure that most people never even hear about. I wasn't some weekend hobbyist with a firewall tutorial. I used to train federal agents on how to infiltrate digital fortresses and how to defend them. So, when I opened my network logs that morning and saw repeating pattern intrusion attempts from rotating IP addresses, I didn't panic. I recognized them. Cheap botnet traffic, bottom tier, off-the-shelf malware that script kiddies rent for $9.99 to impress their friends or crash Minecraft servers. But this wasn't a kid testing boundaries. Someone was trying to penetrate my network. The attacks came in clusters, 5 attempts one night, 10 the next, sometimes 20. Every signature traced back to a different compromised machine somewhere on the internet. Hijacked home routers, poorly secured IoT devices, outdated servers. Standard botnet behavior. But the command and control signal, the heartbeat coordinating all those attacks, that was the interesting part. It pulsed from a mobile device, routed through Colorado, and occasionally jumped to a university network IP block. CSU Pueblo. Tyler Litton, Karen's son, the same genius who edited the smear video, now thought he was a cyber criminal. I leaned back in my chair, took a slow sip of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago, and exhaled. They were escalating again. And this time, they'd stepped onto my battlefield. I spent the next 2 hours tracing Tyler's digital footprints with the same methodical precision I used to track state-sponsored hackers. Quietly, patiently. Following the disturbances, he didn't know he'd left. Packet timestamps, traffic signatures, behavioral patterns in the botnet heartbeat intervals. Even amateur criminals have rhythms. Tyler's rhythm was like a drunk woodpecker trying to play the drums. After 90 minutes of analysis, I could tell exactly when he launched each attack, exactly when he panicked and switched VPNs, exactly when he thought he'd covered his tracks. Amateurs think VPNs make them invisible. Professionals know VPNs just make amateurs easier to spot. I gathered everything: timestamps, packet captures, malware signatures, behavioral analysis, and packaged it into a clean evidence bundle. Then I made a phone call. Not to Sheriff Bell, not to the county prosecutor, to someone else entirely. A retired colleague from my federal days, Marcus Chen, now consulting quietly for the FBI's cyber division. He answered on the second ring. Isaiah, it's been a while. Got something you might want to look at. He chuckled. Is it legal? I smiled. It's data, Marcus. Data doesn't break laws. People do. He sighed, the sound of a man who'd heard that line before. Send it. I transmitted the sanitized bundle, no names, no locations, no context beyond the raw network activity. Give me an hour. It took him 23 minutes. He called back, voice different, now, tighter, sharper, focused. Isaiah, where did you get this? Hypothetically, I said carefully, someone tried poking holes in my home network. I traced the attempts back to their source. Long pause. Isaiah, this specific botnet is already under federal surveillance. I sat up straighter. Explain. We've been tracking this botnet infrastructure for months. It's used by an organized criminal group. We've been trying to pin down credit card skimming operations, ransomware deployment, cryptocurrency laundering, the works. And now some college kid rented it like a toy. Exactly, which means whoever initiated these attacks from Colorado, his voice hardened. They just stepped directly into an active federal investigation. I rubbed my temples. So, what happens now? Now, Marcus said, we escalate, quietly. Send me the unredacted version with full context. I hesitated. You sure about this? Isaiah, if your attacker is involved with this botnet in any capacity, even accidentally, the Bureau needs to know. This isn't HOA drama anymore. This is federal jurisdiction. So I sent him everything. Full logs, geographic data, Tyler's device signatures, the works. And within 24 hours, 3 things happened. 1. Marcus forwarded my evidence to the Denver field office's cybercrime task force. 2. The task force opened a preliminary case file on unlawful digital intrusion originating from Pine Shadows Village and CSU Pueblo. 3. Tyler Litton's world started cracking. because that same afternoon, a federal agent contacted CSU Pueblo's IT security department, requesting device logs for multiple students on Tyler's dorm floor. Nothing publicly visible yet. But the gears had started turning, and once federal gears start moving, they don't stop for anyone. Meanwhile, back in Pine Shadows, residents were still buzzing about the edited video, the flyers, the whispered concerns. Karen thought she was tightening a noose around my reputation. She didn't realize she'd just tied the rope around her own neck. Because the botnet attacks, the edited video, the anonymous flyers, the late-night surveillance, none of it was isolated. It was a coordinated harassment campaign. And when you tie digital crime to real-world intimidation, you don't stay in civil court. You move straight into criminal court. 2 days later came the moment I knew the tide had turned. Marcus called again. "Isaiah, we've got a problem. Or rather, they do. Talk to me." The botnet traffic Tyler used, it routed through a misconfigured proxy node that happens to piggyback on a federal data subcontractor. I closed my eyes. Oh hell, yeah. That's an automatic breach of federal network security policy. Red flag. Priority investigation. And because of the existing botnet case, the Cyber Task Force now has probable cause to examine every digital action tied to that device. So Karen escalated this into a federal case. She didn't escalate, Marcus corrected. She detonated. I sat in the quiet of my workshop, listening to the low, steady hum of my server racks. Karen Litton wanted to smear me, embarrass me, drive me off my land. She thought she could rewrite the narrative, edit reality, weaponize her son, and control the story through fear and gossip. But she didn't understand the rules she was playing with. She didn't realize that digital attacks leave digital fingerprints. She didn't know she'd created a trail that the FBI was now following, methodically, legally, inevitably, straight back to her front door. The HOA queen had crossed a line. No clipboard, no committee vote, no neighborhood petition could save her from what came next. There are battles you choose. There are battles that choose you. And then there are battles where you don't realize until it's too late that the other side is armed with training, experience, and federal allies. This wasn't HOA territory anymore. This was federal terrain. And Karen Litton had just trespassed onto the wrong battlefield. The knock came at 6:02 in the morning. Not on my door, on Karen's. Pine Shadows Village woke up to the sound of federal agents before anyone's first cup of coffee. Out here, news doesn't travel by word of mouth. It travels by panic. By 6:15, 3 different neighbors had driven past my property by accident, slowing down just enough to see if I knew something they didn't. I didn't wave, didn't gloat, just stood on my porch, mug in hand, watching the sky turn from steel blue to soft gold over the pines. My phone buzzed text from Marcus. "It's underway. Keep your distance." By 7 a.m., the Pine Shadows HOA Facebook group had transformed into a digital wildfire. Does anyone know why there are federal vehicles at Karen's house? I saw agents carrying out computers. This is serious. What's going on? Someone posted a blurry cell phone photo of 2 agents loading evidence boxes into an unmarked van. Caption: Federal raid? Even through low-resolution pixels, you could see the chaos on Karen's lawn. Her silver Lexus in the driveway, her son Tyler sitting on the curb with his head in his hands. Karen herself pacing near the door, no crimson blazer today, no polished armor, just fury, confusion, and smudged mascara running like war paint. By 7:40, the first leaked audio hit the group chat. They took her computer, both laptops, and a huge stack of HOA files like 5 inches thick. Another voice replied. She was screaming about being the HOA president. The agent told her, "Not today, you're not." I didn't smile.